It is May 11th, 2024, and you are listening to Sports Chowder, the show that discusses, celebrates, and/or laments the state of Boston sports. Today we're talking the second round of the Celtics and Bruins playoff runs, some moves the Patriots are making, and more. Stay tuned. I'm going to start things off by talking the Celtics series against Cleveland, which is currently tied 1-1. Now, of course, the Celtics won Game 1, 120-95. That was a really great win. Felt good to start out of the gate doing that well. But then on Thursday night, they lost Game 2, 118-94, and Game 3 is tonight at 7 Central in Cleveland. Now, to be sure, I have confidence that the Celtics will win the series. We're, frankly, the better team, as I've been saying. We're the best team in the NBA right now. I'm not afraid of the Cavaliers long-term in this series. But I have to say, it's still painful to lose by 24 points in a playoff game. I did not expect the Celtics to win 16 straight games in the playoffs and sweep everyone, That would be ridiculous. I expected that we would lose some games, as every team does in the playoffs. But there is something about these apathetic blowout losses that really rubs me the wrong way. Even Game 2 against the Miami Heat in these playoffs felt that way. Now, we only lost by 10 points that game, but it still felt a bit apathetic. I want them to seem like they're trying and not just taking a game to rest and then win the next 3 games. Something about that just seems wrong and foolish. You don't want to give your opponent any advantage if you can help it. I'm not going to panic, I'm not going to criticize our players or our coaches. I'm just saying it's a little frustrating as a fan from my vantage point. I get it, Some people have to play up to 7 games in every series to win a championship. And so far, our playoff run has been not a challenge. So I get it. I'm not saying I'd want it to be even easier, but again, a blowout loss is a blowout loss. It's not good. It's concerning. So hopefully we can make the adjustments we have to make and win Game 3 and possibly Game 4 in Cleveland, and then come home to Boston and win the series. If not, it will not kill us to play Games 6 and 7. I just hope we don't have blowout losses in any of these games. It's just boring and embarrassing as a fan, to be tuning into a playoff game and then to lose like that. I feel like my time is wasted and it just makes us look bad. Even if it's just for a couple days between games, it's not fun. So again, I hope we don't lose in blowouts anymore. I hope when we do lose in these playoffs that it's close and that we ultimately win every series. I have full confidence, but for right now, that's how I'm feeling. And I'm guessing we'll win Game 3 and I'll be feeling amazing again, but that's where this episode falls. We're between Game 2 and 3. That's my focus right now. That's really what I'm feeling. I hope tonight the Celtics are great, so I can feel great about them again. Moving on to a story about the NBA as a whole. Apparently, NBC is nearing a $2.5 billion deal with the NBA to acquire the broadcasting rights currently held by Turner Sports. And if Turner Sports wants to maintain these rights, or renew, I should say, they'll have to raise their offer to $2.8 billion. As you may know, NBC was the broadcasting partner of the NBA from 1990 to 2002. This is when the NBA soared to new heights. It was also during the Jordan era. NBC broadcast all of his championships. So really, the first era NBC had with the NBA was a very golden time for both of them, NBC had basketball, they had Seinfeld, they had Friends, Frasier. That was also during the last couple years of Cheers. So yeah, good times for both the NBA and NBC. So I can understand why NBC thinks, we can't bring back Seinfeld. We really can't do that. We can't reboot Friends. but we can bring on the NBA. So I understand why, in this day and age when live events are the only thing that bring in viewers, I can see why they're thinking, let's bring on some basketball. That being said, Turner Sports, meaning their channel TNT, probably need basketball even more. I mean, at least NBC has Sunday Night Football and the Super Bowl some years, plus the Olympics. TNT has Law and Order reruns, I think, and that's about it. And some hockey. I like hockey, but besides hockey and basketball, no one's really tuning into TNT as far as I know. Now, I'm conflicted on this because I really love the TNT show Inside the NBA with Shaq and Charles Barkley, Ernie Johnson, and the other guy, Kenny Smith. I'm sorry, I forgot his name, but everyone loves Inside the NBA. It's a great show. It's a great pregame and postgame and halftime show. And it will be a real tragedy to lose that. But I also think NBC Sports does a good job. I really enjoy Sunday Night Football. I think they could create a really good studio show. I mean, honestly, Charles Barkley said he would be leaving TNT if they lose the NBA. And I think NBC would be very willing to pay him the money he needs and wants to be a part of the studio show. They would call it Basketball Night in America, apparently, much like Football Night in America, their pre- and post-game show for Sunday Night Football. So I think you can at least have Charles Barkley, and I hope they even try to bring on Shaq and Kenny Smith. You could pretty easily recreate that show if you want to. I will miss Ernie Johnson if they do that, but again, what I really love personally is Shaq and Chuck. Anything else is secondary. So if NBC gets the rights and recreates that dynamic, I'm all for it. If TNT retains the rights, great, we don't lose Inside the NBA. For me, it's possibly a win-win situation. I mean, I just like the idea that money is being spent on making a great basketball broadcasting product, It should be fun to watch the NBA on TV, so I think they could both do a great job. We'll see what happens. Now let's talk the Boston Bruins. Now thankfully they won Game 7 of Round 1. They avoided repeating history from last year. Pastrnak sealed the deal with an epic overtime goal, which I've watched several times. It was very beautiful, so I'm very relieved that the Bruins advanced to Round 2, and now they are tied up 1-1 with the Florida Panthers. Now, of course, Game 1 was an exciting game to watch. It was a big win. We won 5-1, which was great. But we turned around and lost Game 2 6-1. So, again, now the series is tied. But that's okay, Blowout win, then a blowout loss. It'll be an interesting series, and hopefully we emerge victorious, obviously. I'm not panicking, even though Game 2 was pretty ugly. Now, there is a game tonight, and by tonight I mean Friday, at 6 p.m. Central, and I think we'll win. I mean, Games 1 and 2 were in Florida, Games 3 and 4 are home in Boston, so I'm hopeful and optimistic that we will win both games at home, and then turn around and win, hopefully, Game 5. And if not, that's okay, but what's important is getting these home wins, especially when you start the series in Florida, so my positive spin is that we won one in Florida, so now we're tied 1-1 instead of being down 0-2. So let's get these home wins, and then let's beat them in Florida and move on. Now let's talk the Patriots. There are reports that they are in the market to hire a general manager type of role. It won't be called general manager, but for all intents and purposes, it will be a general manager in charge of personnel. Now, the clear frontrunner, according to many in the media, is Patriots Director of Scouting Elliott Wolf, who has been referred to by many as the current de facto general manager. Since Belichick's dismissal, people have seen him serving the role of general manager in all but title. However, the Patriots are also looking at two outside candidates, Eagles Director of Scouting Brandon Hunt and Carolina Panthers Director of Player Negotiations and Salary Cap Manager Samir Suleiman. Now, my prediction is boring. I think Elliott Wolf will get the job, assuming he's made all or most of the draft and free agency decisions. Now, if it's really someone else in the building calling the shots for the Patriots and Elliott Wolf is just sort of a figurehead, then I would be fine with someone else. So, really, I trust the Crafts to make the right choice in this scenario, because if they really want someone doing this, they're going to hire someone who's competent enough to make these decisions on their own. If they didn't want to do that, they wouldn't be hiring someone for this role. At least that's what I think. Now, honestly, if he is making these choices, I think Elliott Wolf has done a pretty good job, all things considered. It's a hard market for free agency, especially when you're the Patriots with a new coach coming off a very bad season. It's hard to recruit free agents, I get it. But I think we just had a very great draft, and I think our future is bright. So I think Elliott Wolf would do a fine job. It's still worth talking to other people, because a GM is very important, and you don't want to miss out on opportunities because your GM was too hesitant to make a deal happen. So I hope they take this decision very seriously. I'm sure they will. Speaking of New England Patriots personnel changes, on Monday it was reported that the Patriots were waiving backup quarterback Nathan Rourke. Rourke was then claimed on waivers by the New York Giants on Tuesday. Now, I kind of like Nathan Rourke, even though I have not seen him really play. I say this because he's actually from Canada, and he played in the Canadian Football League, where he won the Outstanding Canadian Award. Now, I think it's fun to have a Canadian in the NFL, but frankly, there's just no room for him with the Patriots. Even without him, we have 4 quarterbacks on our roster. We have Jacoby Brissett, Bailey Zappi, Drake May, and Joe Milton III. My guess is that by the time the season starts, we have only 3 quarterbacks. I'm thinking either Joe Milton III is playing a different position, or Bailey Zappi is released or traded. Or one of them is on the practice squad. And it could be a combination, You could have Zappi gone and Milton playing tight end, or on the practice squad, but I'm thinking Zappi might be gone. There's really no reason to have him around, and he's just the obvious candidate for leaving, in my opinion. But whatever happens, whatever is decided by Coach Mayo and his staff, I think it's pretty obvious to everyone we don't need 4 active quarterbacks on the roster. Quickly, I want to talk about the Tom Brady roast, which was on Sunday night. I watched the whole thing. It was very crude and very long. As my mom said, it was like 8th grade boy humor when I shared some of the jokes with her. Some of it was funny, some of it made me cringe. It's pretty much a typical celebrity roast. Now, I have to say, Bill Belichick, who was one of the roasters, got some really good burns in, especially about the British soccer team that Tom Brady is a part owner of. Belichick said, quote, "Not so easy running a football team, huh? Stick to American football," unquote. And there was an awkward moment when they tried to have Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick take a shot together. It was pretty awkward. Belichick did not want to do it, and then Kraft went to the microphone and was like, "Oh, I was so blessed to have Tom Brady and Bill Belichick in my organization," which is true and nice, but it's too soon to be saying stuff like that. It was obvious in Belichick's eyes. Despite that, it still felt like closure to me as a Patriots fan, especially with Belichick and the players. The fact Belichick got up there, called Tom Brady the greatest of all time, but that the other players are great too, and that he loves them all. It was a sweet moment relative to Bill Belichick, Everyone let out some steam, and then they got together, took selfies, they hugged, It's obvious they still care for each other. It's just things happen in this business. It's life. I'm glad Tom Brady made this happen. Obviously, not all of the jokes needed to be said, but it's a roast. It's going to be a little too far, but I enjoyed it just to see those guys on stage together. Now a quick Red Sox update. They lost their weekend series to the Minnesota Twins 2-1. However, in the third and final game of that series, they broke the Twins' 12-game winning streak to avoid the sweep, which was pretty cool. And then this week they lost a 2-game series to Atlanta. This weekend they have a series against the Nationals. The Nationals have lost 18 games and won 18 games, so it could go either way. I hope we win the series, but who knows? It's still pretty early. You can't tell a lot yet. Now, the worst part of this week that involved 2 series losses is having to have the Red Sox play against pitcher Chris Sale. He was with the Red Sox for years. He won the 2018 World Series with us. So it was really a bummer to have to face him. And of course, the Braves beat us 5-0 when he was the pitcher because he's a great pitcher. I miss him. I really miss him on the roster, but the trade happened, whatever. Sometimes you have to move on. For his part, Chris Sale said, quote, "I've said it before and I'll say it again until I run out of breath. I love those guys. I always will. The memories I made with them were good and bad. On the flip side of that, this is a competitive game and we have a job to do," unquote. It's a pretty balanced, sober take from Chris Sale. Obviously very grateful, but he understands baseball is a business, and when you're on the other team, it's going to be competitive. You're not going to let warm feelings get in the way of winning. And that's what you need in the pitcher, you know. Set aside those nostalgic feelings, set aside whatever pressure there is, and win. And that's why he was a great addition to the Red Sox roster when we acquired him back in 2017. I was really fortunate in high school. Every summer the Red Sox were competitive. They won the American League East from 2016 to 2018, and we had some amazing players. And Chris Sale was a big part of that, you know. We added him, we leveled up, and then he helped bring us a title. So he was a part of a really great experience for me as a sports fan. He really made me fall in love with baseball in a way I had not. You know, I obviously always loved the Red Sox and loved watching the highlights when they won games and championships, but, you know, that era of the Red Sox is the group of guys that really grabbed my attention and inspired me to be an even more passionate fan than I had ever been. So, like I said, I miss Chris Sale, I miss all of those guys. I hope we can recreate that magic soon. And now, Assorted Awesome, where I talk about something that is 100% awesome, no caveats. Bruins defenseman Brandon Carlo became a father for the second time between Game 7 versus Toronto and Game 1 versus Florida. After our Game 7 victory, he found out his wife was in labor. So of course, Brandon rushed to the hospital, and after a long labor, his son Crew was born. He stayed the night with his wife and new baby, and missed the Bruins team flight to Florida. He caught a later flight, 2 p.m. Monday, and he made it to the arena just hours before the puck drop. The cherry on top is that Carlo scored the third goal of the night, and that is really cool because it is very rare for a defenseman to score a goal. Thankfully, David Pastrnak immediately picked up the puck and put it away for safekeeping so that Carlo's new son can have that puck as a keepsake. So, congrats to Brandon Carlo and his wife Mason on baby Crew and this epic turn of events. Very cool, very sweet. That is all I have for this episode of Sports Chowder. You can follow me on X at StebbensTweets. You can follow the show on X at sports_chowder. You can follow the show on Instagram at sportschowder and like it on Facebook. As a reminder, you can listen to Sports Chowder on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music. Thank you so much for listening. It means so much to me. I will return next week with even more sports chowder.